squeeze 700 people in here. The guards would drop Zyklone 5 cyanide gas from above through hatches. The cyanide pellets activated when they hit oxygen. After about 20 minutes, everyone was dead. And then slave labor would go into the room and drag the bodies of those poor souls out and bring them and incinerate them in these ovens. There were 3 sets of ovens like that. This is why Homeland Security must be squared away, why our military must be invincible. This is the...
All right, so we can pause there.
What? What? What did he say?
Our military must be invincible.
He said this is why Iran cannot have a nuclear device. If Iran gets hold of nuclear device, the Holocaust will happen again.
Oh, God.
And because of slave labor, they carry these poor souls.
I didn't even look for it. Where is this guy from? Texas, yeah. Or no, like, Louisiana.
It's like Port Bower or some shit.
So, yeah. I just wanted to play that because I guess today is like Holocaust Remembrance Day. And don't think we're like some anti-Semites or something, or like Holocaust deniers.
Well,
the point
Jacan
of this video,
but...
yeah, I am, but I can't talk for everyone else. No.
Jokingly, obviously, but yeah,
no, the reason why I thought this video was interesting for today is because yes, the Holocaust is something that is one of the most wretched points in human history, and was, in part. And it wasn't just the entire goal, but was a systemic attempt to remove the Jewish people. But the main issue with, especially how the Holocaust is remembered now, is that it's used as, and you can look to some of Norman Finkelstein's work on this, that it's specifically made to be an event that is unique. And what I mean by that is, it is a unique event in the way that all events are unique in their own way, but it's made to be an event that there can be no parallel to it. That they even use the name Holocaust and say that it can only be reserved for this specific occasion. Like, for instance, because Holocaust is not an exclusive term to this one event. There are many Holocausts and many genocides, like the Armenian genocide, which has been denied for a very long time, and a lot of countries like the U.S. and Turkey still deny it to some capacity.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, but the memory of the Holocaust has been used to create this uniqueness, and the reason they do that is not. It both takes away from the actual suffering of the Jewish people under the Holocaust, but it also, they now use it as an excuse to justify horrific atrocities against the Palestinian people. And the way they do that is by saying basically that the Holocaust was so horrendous an event that the creation of Israel as a state was absolutely necessary. And by doing that, they pretty much pave way for, well, since we suffered the worst thing in human history, don't compare the plight of the Palestinians to us.
And not only that, they use that event as a way to further further reinforce the idea that like Israel is like a real, like it should be a justified state.
Well, that's what I kind of said there, was that they use it as a justified state because they're like, hey, we were pushed out, like nowhere wanted us, and that's a complete historical revisionism about how the state of Israel was created and how the Palestinian people were pushed out.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I just wanted to put this because many people have a misconception as to what the Holocaust is, that it's some unique event that is not tied to the rest of history. And you could even hear it in Representative Higgins' statement where he's like, at the end there, he's like, this is why we need a strong military and strong homeland security. Like the strong homeland security and a strong military in Nazi Germany weren't what caused this in the first place.
Absolutely.
So when you're
That's-
disconnected from that entirely, not that he's probably saying it disingenuously in general, but yeah, you don't understand the root causes of these things.
Exactly.
But yeah, that was my Holocaust spiel, and it was edgy. So now we can get over that. And how's everyone's week?
It was good. That wasn't too edgy, by the way. I think you did a good job.
Yeah, it was. He's the edgy one, not me.
Yeah.
There's a lot of dislikes.
Well, there's good killing
yeah.
and there's bad killing, and well, we do the good killing, so
We do the good
so
killing,
they don't do the bad killing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was basically his message. But yeah, my week's been good too. It's been slow, feels like.
Yeah.
We
it's
got
been-
here quick though, to Wednesday.
No, yeah. It's been a slow January, like specifically news wise, but just like I guess it's such that post holidays kind of thing. Gotta
Yeah.
get back into the groove, kind of.
And still just filling out this void too. Where it's like new president, Trump has just fallen off the face of the earth.
Very true.
He's like the only person in America the last 4 years in any like sense, and now he's just no one has heard from him.
I still forget that Biden is a president, to be honest.
Mhm.
I just hear shit in the news. I'm like, oh, typical Trump, and I'm like, oh wait.
I think that's part of that whole void. Is just it doesn't even feel. And some of the news we'll get to is just adds on. Like nothing feels real right now.
Absolutely.
I guess if you think about it in a way, it's Trump was in the media spotlight so much, it almost kind of reflected the FDR fireside chat kind of mantra, where it's like he was constantly in people's minds, you know, always in some form of attention. Obviously, I don't think they came quite as often.
Well,
and first of all, like, what's up, Leo? But second of all, like, absolutely, and like, think about it, like, while Trump was president, fuck the guy, but like while he was president, absolutely, always, every day you see something that he did in the news. They're reacting over something that he did, something that he said during a campaign rally or something, just something. And I mean, it's only been a couple of days with Biden, but Biden, even running on the campaign trail to become president, did not really get that much,
Nope.
media coverage because he fucks up. He gaffes a lot. His brain does not work. He's got brain rot. So I mean, you need to keep him out of the spotlight. And so yeah, definitely like you said, that void. I'm just so used to seeing outrageous shit every day.
Yes. And yeah, Trump was rallying
And
during his whole presidency.
And
like,
it's
in the middle
important.
of
It's
it.
important to say that like insane shit's still happening, but Biden and the Democrats are smart enough to shut the fuck up about it. Trump was dumb enough to let us know all the insane shit that was going on. And yeah, it's quiet on purpose.
I think that's for sure a reason why a lot of establishment types hated Trump for sure too, is he said all their dirty shit
Absolutely.
up front.
Especially in the final days when there was that like right like when Republicans were saying like to concede or not to concede that he lost the election.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was a huge divide.
Yeah, that's why I kind of said that. Like, it felt like he was the only real person these last couple of years. Like everyone was Trump, or
Absolutely.
Trump's mind was somehow melded to all of ours.
Absolutely.
And then he just like that.
Yeah.
Now, maybe we need to have elections that can't be so easily overturned by politicians.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, maybe our democracy isn't so solid if it can just be that easily fucked with.
America may not.
You guys made the wrong choice. Sorry.
The greatest country on earth. Just all these votes, those were wrong votes. We got to use these right votes.
Right. Alt-right.
Chapo to Fash pipeline.
Anyone have like anything else they want to talk about for the week before we start?
No, let's get into the memeiest piece of news in a while.
Yeah, I'll just read the headline here, and then I'll do like my own explainer.
Yeah.
And then people can tell me if it's sufficient, or they have more questions, or they think something more should be said. It's from Business Insider, just so you get the idea. It says GameStop short sellers Melvin Capital and Citron surrender bearish bets with 700% rally drives huge losses. So if you don't know what shorting is, and this whole thing, if at any point you think, hey, this kind of sounds like gambling, or this kind of sounds like all a game, that's because it is. Shorting is the idea that you can bet against a stock, really bet that the stock is going to go down in price, or that the company itself is going to fail, thus, the stock goes down. And investment firms and hedge funds do this all the time. They bet against stocks they know are going to fail. They bet big money on it, and then they turn a profit. So what a bunch of people did with this is apparently coordinated through like a couple different Reddit subs and stuff. They used their stimulus money to buy these trades that were getting shorted on, because someone, I guess like a couple different Redditors pointed out that like, hey, GameStop, AMC, Blockbuster all had like massive shorts against them, and they even, as the headline said, they even knew the firms that did it: Melvin Capital, Citron. There might have been a couple others too. But what they all did is they all bought up this stock, drove the price up, and effectively drove out all the people that bought shorts, which means they lost all their money. And what we saw today, if you read any of like the mainstream news opinion, was that, oh no, they're not supposed to do this. Only the big boys are allowed to rig the stock market. Little people aren't allowed to mess and fuck with it and manipulate it. But yeah, as soon as they do that, it's not allowed. And even once they started doing that, sites like Ameritrade and other trading sites completely blocked people out, and basically only let people that have like high access trading, allowing them to keep trading. So only those super rich people that were gonna be harmed by this thing anyway are the people that are still allowed to trade. So the point is that this is all it's all a house of cards. None of it's real. And this thing's actually awesome. That like, and I read some of the stuff that some of the the Reddits were saying too. Like, they weren't obviously super politically astute, but they were coming at this for the right reason. They're like, hey, like, they fucked us over this pandemic. They're buying all these shorts. Let's fuck them over. And hey, I don't have a problem with that at all.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is super cool as well, and I hope it continues to happen.
And radicalize people too, like people that are just playing the stock market as like a game, a goof or something, or on Reddit as a goof too, because now they're banning subreddits and Redditors. So it's like, yeah, hopefully that radicalizes people to realize Wall Street and
even
stock market's a joke.
even Discord, they banned the Wall Street
they
bets,
banned their Discord,
which was fucking stupid.
Yeah, all those are, but no ban for short, like, and you can short basically anything. Like, this is just an example of them shorting companies like GameStop, but they short the housing market, they short healthcare markets all the time.
Hedge funds, like, their whole purpose is to put downward pressure on the company, then manipulate and fluctuate the price of it. They
bet on people's lives is what they do. They play games with people's lives. Yeah,
absolutely.
And now that some Redditors decided to play a game to fuck up these, mega millionaires and billionaires, no, now manipulation's not allowed. No.
Yeah, and it's funny. It's funny to see the reaction from like Fox. You have all these people who are normally like their whole job is to sell you that the stock market is good and works, and then
no hands, no laissez-faire, don't touch it.
Yeah, and then when they go and a bunch of Redditors go and do this, then they're like, okay, we need regulation. Like the people who get paid to say don't regulate are like now saying we have to regulate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you don't see their hypocrisy,
and I think on a bigger note overall, I think now is an important time to pay attention to what's gonna happen. Like how is big business gonna clap back against the little guy? Like what are they gonna do? Like maybe try to pass legislation or something. Like I think it's important to see what can happen with like a shift of power with Wall Street.
right? Well, clearly they're willing to ban any of their accounts or anything. That don't matter to them. They're willing to pause trading for normal people, basically, too, which we should expect because trading was never for normal people.
Exactly.
Not only did Reddit run up, I guess, GameStop, but they also ran up AMC as well.
Yeah, AMC, Blockbuster.
And I think a couple other ones. Oh yeah, Blockbuster. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, all these ones that they knew people were betting against, that these big hedge funds were betting against.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just a fuck you to Wall Street, and I'm all with it.
It almost
like
reminds.
Go ahead.
It almost reminds me of the old gambling websites. Remember for CS:GO, where it's like the owners of the websites would be the ones advertising this amazing fun system that. I can't say it doesn't. It sounds awfully similar, huh? And they shut it all down when people catch on.
And remember, just like the stock market, those guys had special access to the trades too. They could see the bets before they even went the games were over and stuff, and there was all kinds of bet manipulate. There still is money manipulation going on in like esports and sports betting markets. Yeah, it's all the same. I don't know why we. Sorry, go ahead.
But I was just gonna say, I thought what was super funny was that since this kind of I just found out about this this morning. I feel like a lot of us did. But just I just remembered 3 days ago or 2 days ago prior to today that on social media I saw people saying top 3 stocks to watch out for, and they named off GameStop, AMC, Blockbuster, and some other one. And then 3 days later, today, this came out where Reddit was telling people to, just with what we explained. So I just thought that was interesting because I found out about it, or I saw it actually happening, unfolding 3 days prior.
Right. So, yeah, I think people were finding out that these bets were being placed against these companies. Obviously, everyone knows GameStop, Blockbuster, and shit are failing. So it's not hard to be like, hey, maybe hedge funds that bet against failing companies, they're probably betting against these ones. But yeah, I saw someone describe it as a memeier Occupy Wall Street, but also more effective too. It was more meme, but it got more stuff done in a way too.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
They fuck with the money.
Yeah, they actually fucked with their money.
People bought houses and shit with the money that they got from this shit.
Yeah, Teslas. I think GameStop stock is at $300 right now or something crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts. And yeah, totally. Yeah, fuck yeah, fuck the rich.
Yeah, this gets our Spoopcast stamp of approval, 100%.
Stamp of approval.
I hope more develops because we don't really do a whole lot of stock market stuff here because I think it's stupid, but this is market. Cool stuff. Yeah. Do we want to move into more just fuckery with money?
Yeah, and I think this is
this ties in perfectly. I think
this is a very big fuckery of money. I saw this piece. I think Kyle Kalinske tweeted out, and I was on my lunch break at work, and I was like, oh shit. The headline's very catching, obviously. And I'll go ahead and read it. So it's a Times piece. It's called "The Top 1% of Americans have taken 50 trillion from the bottom 99%, and that's made the U.S. less secure." And so it's a Times piece. It's really big. I only picked out just the first little section here to read, and if you want to read the rest of it, you can go into the description of our YouTube when this is uploaded tomorrow and read the whole thing, or just look it up. But yeah, I'm just gonna read this first part or this first little section because I think it's a lot of numbers. like many of the virus's hardest hit victims, the United States went into the COVID-19 pandemic wrecked by pre-existing condition. A fraying public health infrastructure, inadequate medical supplies, an employer-based health insurance system perversely unsuited to the moment. These and other afflictions are surely contributing to the death toll. But in addressing the causes and consequences of this pandemic, its cruelly uneven impact, the elephant in the room is extreme income inequality. How big is the elephant? A staggering 50 trillion. That is how much the upward redistribution of income has cost American workers over the past several decades. This is not some back of the napkin approximation. According to a groundbreaking new working paper by Carter C. Price and Catherine Edwards of the Rand Corporation, had the more equitable income distributions of the 3 decades following World War II, 1945 through 1974, merely had held steady, the aggregate annual income of Americans earning below the 90th percentile would have had 2.5 trillion higher in the year 2018 alone. That is an amount equal to nearly 12% of GDP, enough to more than double the median income, enough to pay every single working American in the bottom 9 deciles an additional $1,144 a month, every single year. Price and Edwards calculates that the cumulative tab over a 4-year, decade-long experiment in radical inequality had grown to over 47 trillion from 1975 to 2018, at a recent pace of about $2.5 trillion a year. That number, we estimated, crossed the 50 trillion mark by early 2020. That's 50 trillion that would have gone into the paychecks of working Americans had inequality held constant. 50 trillion that would have built a far larger and more prosperous economy. 50 trillion that would have enabled the vast majority of Americans to enter this pandemic far more healthy, resilient, and financially secure. As the Rand report, whose research was funded by the Fair Work Center, which co-author David Rolfe is a board member of, demonstrates a rising tide most definitely did not lift all boats. It didn't even lift most of them, as nearly all of the benefits of growth these past 45 years were captured by those at the very top. And as an American economy grows radically unequal, it is holding back economic growth itself. And then getting to this next part here. Even inequality is meted out unequally. Low-wage workers and their families, disproportionately people of color, suffer from far higher rates of asthma, hypertension, diabetes, and other COVID-19 comorbidities. Yet they are also far less likely to have health insurance and far more likely to work in essential industries with the highest rates of coronavirus exposure and transmission. It is no surprise then, according to the CDC, that COVID-19 inflicts a disproportionate burden of illness and death among racial and ethnic minority groups. But imagine how much safer, healthier, and empowered all American workers might be if that 50 trillion had been paid out in the wages instead of being funneled into corporate profits and the offshore accounts of the super rich. Imagine how much richer and more resilient the American people would be. Imagine how many more lives would have been saved had our people been more resilient. And then I'll just get into this last bit right here. It is easy to see how such a deadly virus and the draconian measures required to contain it might spark an economic depression. But look straight into the eyes of the elephant in the room, and it's impossible to deny the many ways in which our extreme inequality, an exceptionally American affliction, has made the virus more deadly and its economic consequences more dire than in any other advanced nation. Why is our death toll so high and our unemployment rate so staggeringly off the charts? Why was our nation so unprepared and our economy so fragile? Why have we lacked the stamina and the will to contain the virus like most other advanced nations? The reason is staring us in the face, a stampede of rising inequality that has been trampling the lives and livelihoods of the vast majority of Americans year after year after year. And so, yeah, like I think that piece is huge. Just to think about just all that money, just decade after decade, that just is taken out of the your wages. Like you produce all of that value. Every worker produced all of that value, and it's literally just going into CEO pay. That's it. Like somebody who's sitting in a chair doing absolutely nothing while you're slaving away, working your ass off, is just taking your money, and there's nothing you can do about it. You have this power dynamic which leaves you like pretty much useless, and yeah, like and how they tied into COVID is like also so true, and it's something we've talked about a bunch on the show with just how important economic stimulus is, and how like the economic pressure of COVID has done more damage, or I feel like than the virus. Yeah, like more damage than the virus itself, in my opinion.
Right. And obviously we've talked about this too, like they go hand in hand, but the virus did not cause the economic collapse. And
Yeah,
to say, yeah, they're both very bad things that are ripping people apart. And like you said, it disproportionately affects the along racial and class lines. The poorer and generally the darker you are, the more likely COVID and the economy is going to affect you in the negative way.
exactly. And yeah, I just
Well, instead of having fucking money for like healthcare or even just pocket change, like it's funneling up to the 1% so they can spend it on hedge funds betting it's fucking GameStop. Like,
or
for
to
God's sakes.
put it in the pockets of politicians to fight endless wars.
Right. Or
Wasting
bomb
more
kids
money.
in Yemen.
Absolutely.
We'll talk about that later too. So
Yeah.
I did notice that ever since Biden became president, our language is starting to shift more towards his.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it shows how the president really is kind of the dictator role, even though we just don't want to call it that. Yes. He really influences everyone in the country.
And I want to, yeah, that's very interesting. You said that about the New York Times piece that I sent that we're gonna read from. That type of the changing of language.
Well, like, I think people realize that with Trump for sure, because yeah, like Carlos said with Trump, like we were in his brain for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason they don't realize other presidents it's like that too. Like that's their role, you know, if anything, is to be the face of empire and be the mind, the swamp that we all have to muddle through.
Absolutely.
Like each era has its challenges, whether it's, you know, the straight up stupidity, but the like ruthless conservatism and warmongering of like the Bush era, or with Obama you have like, and very similar with Biden, like the platitudes and this kind of like change language, but nothing really happening. And you have Trump, where it's just the vacuous insanity of lies, where nothing is true. Like they all have their different tastes, but they're all to just cover up for the workings of empire.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just the Congress and Senate. How often does that shit ever change? Like really, like how often does the game never changes, even though the president does.
Right. Well, it changes how it's portrayed, but the game is the same. Like now we have the Dems have like way more of a majority, but they have just now the narrative's going to be, well, we can't do that because unity. We got to work with the right. We don't want to give in to the far left. That's not what people want, even though that is what people want.
That's absolutely already what's happening. When you the stimulus checks, like what's talked about with that?
Right.
It's with the conversation is always Biden is going to work on something regardless of GOP votes. It's like they're using this thing where it sounds like he's playing some kind of unity game, but like they have the super majority. They could have had these checks out on day 1 and day 2. But they're trying to continue to play the game.
Because the circumstances have changed, but their goals are exactly the same.
Yeah. Well, you mean Joe Manchin became the most powerful senator in the country when he said, "I'm not going to give anyone a $2,000 check."
Yep, and they let him run with that.
Yeah, and just it's literally just we're living through our Obama years. We're conscious during the Obama years. That's all that's happening, which is only going to lead, and unless we can coalesce around a working class candidate, this is going to lead to a worse Trump. And with Biden being in the state that he is physically, we don't know if he's going to make it to his second term.
Or even if he does, like, that should, in my eyes, be seen as just as bad as, like, if another Trump comes in. That means we still failed.
This is about to be this is about to be weekend at Biden's.
Yeah. But yeah,
they're just gonna hold him up on some posts. Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, it's just, unless we can coalesce around a working class candidate on the left, we're just gonna get a worse Trump.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Because I mean, I don't see the neoliberal game working again.
No, even if, did it ever work? Like, it didn't work. It didn't work for us.
Well, exactly. That's the point of the neoliberal game. It's not supposed to work for us.
Yeah.
The establishment loves it, but yeah, more and more average people get screwed every time.
It worked in their definition.
That's why so many people hate Macron in France.
Yeah, vehemently. He's very unpopular, and he's like, the center Dems. He's if Hillary Clinton won the presidency, basically. Yeah, that was a good. I think just that disparity ties into just the goofiness of, like, the stock market, and how that's just another tool to justify the goofiness of the disparity, like how stupid this is.
Mm-hmm.
Are you guys cool if we move to this?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
So this one's actually really sad, and you can check Status Quo. We point them out all the time. They do good stuff, good reporting, especially on smaller reporting stuff like this. A lot of stuff on Fun Michigan as well. I don't know exactly how you pronounce her name, but I assume it's Poushawn. But she was like an Amazon facility worker, and basically she wasn't trained for any, like, specific medical training or anything like that. She was just an Amazon employee that got moved to the COVID testing unit, and that was her job for months, I assume now. And one day she doesn't feel very good, and she takes a little nap after she's eaten or something, and she dies. And Amazon doesn't send her a letter. They don't send the family a letter. They don't contact the nothing. This is someone that's working in their COVID testing facilities that shouldn't be. And on top of all this, not only did they not, like, pay for her funeral or any expenses like that, or help her daughter now that's she now has a 12-year-old daughter that's now motherless. They also didn't provide her with proper mask, gloves, protective, any of that, which is expected, honestly. But yeah, I think this is her sister talking, so we'll just let them kind of talk and tell the story.
You are the sister of Poushawn Brown, and Poushawn Brown was working at Amazon since 2018. You two worked there together, actually, which we're going to talk about. And I got informed a couple days ago that Poushawn had died after working specifically in Amazon's COVID testing area, where she was involved with actually testing COVID patients. So I've been doing a little digging. You and I have been speaking. I want to start kind of from the beginning for my audience, and you take your time because I know it's emotional right now. Your sister passed away a little over a week ago. But can you just start from the beginning of when your sister started working at Amazon and when it is that you two started working there together, and then when you left Amazon?
Okay, so my sister started working at Amazon was 2018. and I actually got her the job there. I told her about it because my mom was in a home because she had issues with her legs, and then she had to have 3 surgeries, and then it didn't work out. So my mom's unable to walk, so she cannot walk. She hasn't walked since 2017. Um, and I got my sister a job there. She started off driving as a driver, and I think it was the storm that we had, like 2000, but it had to be 2019. It was a storm, and the car slid or the truck slid, and then that's when I had told my sister that I wasn't going to be doing it anymore. I didn't want her doing it. It was just a part-time job for me, but it was for her because she needed the money. I had another job, um, and then I said we're not going to go out and do it again because after the truck slid, we thought it was just the drivers because drivers, they treat drivers any type of way. I mean, drivers is like you just replace it with drivers. It's just like the worst thing at Amazon. And
And you guys were driving a lot of those Prime orders where
yeah,
you have to deliver
it
it
was
like.
it was Prime, where Prime you have to have delivered within 2 to 4 hours, and then it was the groceries, Amazon, Amazon groceries. So they have Amazon's with Whole Food now. So pretty much it was just the Prime. It was pretty much the Prime and the groceries, and the frozen, Amazon Whole Food. But that after that happened, I was like, that's it, that's done, because I think they were like, well, how bad is it can you get? We have to have them delivered in 2 hours. So I was like, oh no, this is not happening. And then I think maybe 2 weeks we had stopped, and like maybe 2 3 weeks after that, they sent us an email stating that they have position open in the warehouse, because that's what we really wanted to do, is for me, because the hours, I liked it to do the hours. I came in at 5 in the morning, and I was normally done by around 10. Well, the shift was from 5 to 10:15 in the morning. That way I could go to school, and then I could go to my other job, my full-time job. And that was good. We went to the training, everything like that. I don't even know. We went to the training, and then we had no, the orientation, then the training. Um, hmm. My sister started off working the morning, then the nights, and then she started off um back to another night shift. Um, I think maybe after 2 3 months, I was like, I was done. I was done with it because I thought they treated the drivers worse. They treated the employees worse. I received two broken fingers from working there, and I hadn't even been there for 6 months. Two broken fingers, and I had the skin peeled off back to the pink meat of my ankles, because the carts that you push all the packages on. So my sister, she liked it. I mean, she didn't have a job, so she didn't have a job, and she was a full-time mom, so she liked it. Me, was going to school, plus I had a full-time job, and she liked it. I just it wasn't I could tell it wasn't for me, but I was like, I don't want to leave her here. And plus she was like, well, when you're ready to leave, we'll leave together. I had been ready to leave. So it's a point to where when my grandmother passed away last year, I was like, I couldn't do it. Things were already getting bad there's because when they had the protests with the George Floyd, it was one particular manager. I don't know how many people are going to see this. Like I said, I just I don't want to speak bad about Amazon, but just I can only speak about my experience, and if that's to other people is bad or whatever, I can only just tell you my truth. When we had the George Floyd situation and the protest, they beefed up security. They was like got security there extra and everything like that, because I guess they were worried about the protesters coming there. But it was one manager who said to me that we can't speak about, don't talk about the Black Lives Movement, don't talk about this, don't talk about that. We can't speak that in here. And I was confused. It's because the reason that they have security here is because somebody died. Like, it had everything to do with it. Like, and you're saying that that's freedom of speech. I was talking about it. Me and another coworker was speaking about it, and he was like, "You can't speak that here. You can't talk that here." we will fire you. We will get you out of here. And so I was like, for real? That's what's going to happen? Because it's worldwide. They're talking about it in different countries. And he was like, yeah, you can't speak that here. You can't talk about that here. And I'm like, well, I'm just confused. Like, I'm speaking to somebody, a personal conversation. You came up behind and you heard somebody say something about what happened with George Floyd or the funeral. I think we were talking about the funeral, how sad it was. And and he was like, you can't speak that here. If you speak that here, we'll fire you. You can't do that. And I was like, oh, you're gonna fire me? I thought Jeff Bezos sent emails and text messages telling people that he was, like, why? I said, you can't do that. You cannot tell somebody what they can't say and what they can't speak. Like, you can't do that. So he's like, you can't speak it here. If you speak it here again, you're gonna get fired. So I was like, okay, you can fire me now. So then after that, like, right, 2 days after that, like, I didn't come to work anymore. Then I came back to my shift, and my grandmother had passed. And then I had told them that I wasn't going to be able to come in with the conditions. It's too stressful there. It's too stressful. It's too this. It's too that. It's a lot of work for a little bit of money. And I told them I don't need the job. I told my sister, let's leave. Let's go. And she was like, well, they're going to get ready to get me to serve a position. They had just opened up this COVID unit thingy now. So I'm like, are they paying you more? And she was like, no, but they're going to say this bonus is always promising. I didn't see anything. So at that point, they were like, well, we're going to give you 3 days. If you don't come back, then, we're going to see, and I was like, okay, well, I'm ready for you guys to let me go. Like, I've had enough here. So after my grandmother passed, we took our grievance days, and then I didn't return back to work. I couldn't do it physically, mentally, emotionally. I couldn't deal with it. It was a lot of work, a little bit of money. They don't care. Not to mention that you will get hurt in there. When I say hurt, you will get hurt in there. And they don't give you. I wasn't getting insurance. I wasn't getting anything. It's not worth it for me to come in here when I and break 2 fingers. When I broke 2 fingers before, I didn't get workers' comp. I didn't get anything. I work with my hands. I'm going to school for law, and I'm a makeup artist. I need my hands. Like, I can't do that. Like, on 2 different occasions, I broke 2 fingers in there, and it's like, okay, we'll take a report, but nobody cared. They can't compensate me. So at
And
that point,
weren't you in a pretty bad car accident while driving for Amazon?
oh yes. Yeah, I got when I think it was 2019, and that's when we stopped driving for them. That's when me and my sister both stopped driving for them. We slid. I think I was in the Herndon or Reston area, and I slid off the with the ice. It was black ice, and they were like, "Well, can you get? Is it a lot of packages? How many more? Can you do the 2?" I think I had 2 or 3 stops. I think I had 2 stops, and I was like, "Well." They said, is the car messed up? Are you okay? And I'm like, no, but I'm scared. Like, I was black ice. Like, I'm scared. And then there was another accident that had happened for me that actually had caused. It was black ice it was an accident that happened before me, and it was ice there. And then I was trying to brake and slid, and it was just, I was scared. And they were like, well, we can send another driver out so you can get the packages, or can you deliver it? And I was like, through. I logged out. I was done. I turned this stuff back into the warehouse, and I was done. And I told my sister, let's go home. She was on another route, and I told her, let's go home. So I thought it was just the drivers that they treated that way. Then when I got to the warehouse, I was like, we probably were better off as drivers. I don't know. But it was it was a lot. So after my grandma died, I couldn't do it. Physically, mentally, emotionally, I couldn't do it. I didn't have it. It wasn't worth it for me. It's not worth it for me. It's not. It's not. You will get hurt in there. Your mental, it's too much pressure. You're under pressure. You are under pressure. You are physically, verbally, in my opinion, I can only speak about my opinion and what I experienced working there. It's too much. It's too much. It's too much. It's too much verbal, physical, mentally abuse. I couldn't do it. I can't do it. Um,
And
and
I've heard that from many workers who
okay,
are being timed how fast they're working during the coronavirus pandemic with the increased demand from people staying at
yeah,
home. There was a lot more pressure put onto workers without additional pay. And I want to ask you about, so when you left, your sister got moved over to this new COVID testing area. And what was your understanding from your sister what the COVID testing area was? It looks like we lost her for a second. Hold on. While we have her situation going on, smash the like button. We got almost 300 people.
I think he brings it back here. Because I thought that stuff is important too, because now they're trying to smear her, saying that she was like both like an unreliable employee, as well as saying that her sister didn't die of COVID, which even whether her sister did or not is beside the point of negligence, and the fact that she's not a certified healthcare worker and she doesn't have the proper equipment anyway. And she also mysteriously died, and they gave her no compensation or nothing.
Is that what Amazon calls their part-time employees now? Unreliable?
Yeah, unreliable. These people, they time, and we can just end it there, because I think actually that whole testimony is more than like, you can see how people get fucking killed in these places. Forget COVID, like
I just
no disease, like people die in these places.
It's just insane. Like hearing like her experience is just it's super familiar.
Right.
Like working at Whole Foods is like it's nuts. Like I remember when I went one day and I just see a bunch of blood on the floor, and like apparently some dude was in the freezer with a knife, and he was looking for something, looking for a box, and a shelf fell over, and so he goes like this, and the knife drops and just slices like his whole forearm right here. And like he doesn't have feeling in that arm, and they said it's gonna take like a while to heal, even if it does or something. But like it cut into the tendons right here, like, and yeah, like shit like that, or just talk like the verbal abuse, like hearing about how, like people getting cussed out and like managers freaking out and shit.
What do you mean freedom of speech?
You think like all this Gilded Age like labor violation stuff is history book shit, not. I mean, yeah, we realize it, but I'm just saying, like you don't.
Yeah, you read this
crazy.
shit, like you see shit you read in books in high school.
Yes.
And you're like,
stuff that's happening in the 1800s or the, you know.
You're like, oh fuck, we never fixed this.
What were you saying,
I think
Michael?
it's also interesting that like it's not even just Amazon that has also experienced this, or like, you know, in Whole Foods or whatever. It's also a lot of other jobs as well, and it doesn't
Absolutely.
like, but Amazon is just a really good example of like what can happen in a workplace when it shouldn't, especially at how big Amazon is and how much they could control it, but they choose not to fix these issues. But yeah, it's a lot of other jobs are also facing the exact same problems as well.
That was like perfectly said.
Yeah, I mean they all have the same problem. They're not democratic, and they're
not collectively owned. One guy has all the power to do everything.
Yeah, you heard it from her story there. Like if you talk about the George Floyd protests, you're out of here. Goodbye.
No, yeah, and that's like they told us don't really bring that stuff up. They said you can't wear the Black Lives Matter mask.
crazy.
Then to ensure, because people would replace that with like ACAB and stuff, they updated their dress code policies where you had to have a blank masks, and then they started giving people Whole Foods masks.
It's a publicity thing.
It's
for them, yeah.
Really, it's all
not only that,
yeah.
For them, it's profit control.
More than that, like doing that, it's doing that to your own workers, and then
it silences them too.
It,
yeah,
it suppresses them, because you see this organized protest of an injustice, and then workers see that and start to think of the injustices happening at the workplace.
You're not a person; you're a representative of the corporation.
You silence that, so they can't think to themselves, "Let's fix this injustice." The fact that we don't have our hazard pay, the fact that the hazard pay was only $2, the fact that part-time employees got their benefits taken away, the fact that in certain regions that they changed the break period from 15 to 10 during a pandemic, which is net losing workers money, or paid break money. It's disgusting.
it Michael Jordan that said it? The Republicans also buy basketball shoes. That's their. You can't. They don't. Well, they do now. I was gonna say they don't take political stands because they don't want to change up who buys their product, but we do see them pander and make. And I think that was part of her grievance too. Is like you see Amazon pander to the Black Lives Matter movement like they care, but then they're like, hey, you can't even talk about it at work.
No, yeah, I was just about to say they're just literally just being fake, really.
Yeah, and it's funny. Funny you brought up the Jordan basketball shoes thing because, like, look what happened with the Colin Kaepernick thing, another Black Lives Matter movement. It was the whole no more Nike, stop supporting Nike. People were burning their Nike products.
But on the same token, too, and Nike's not doing that for the right reason.
Exactly, because and not only that, because of how fucked up and disgusting their sweatshops and warehouses are, they're fucking over Black employees as well as as well as fucking sweatshops in the middle, like the middle of Asia.
Right, so it's all just baseless or careless pandering, rather.
Yeah,
like they don't give a shit. You should check out Status Quo's like plugs and stuff because and maybe we can plug it later. They have like a GoFundMe because it's just her daughter now, her like 12-year-old daughter that has to be raised by her sister, who was interviewed there, and I think her sister now has to also take care of her mom, who's paralyzed.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up a little earlier, like the whole timeline when all this was happening. Just the year prior to them getting the job, their mom lost both of like the ability to walk and surgery. Then all these work accidents were happening. Then their grandma died. Then the COVID thing opens up. She gets the job there and then dies. Like all this happened insanely fast. And something that I didn't say, during the video because I didn't want to interrupt, but think of how much money that costs in medical bills. And didn't you hear what she said earlier? Like that was her job from 5 a.m. to 10 and then goes to her full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
Which is insanity.
And her sister is a mom, of a 12-year-old girl she doesn't have a husband, I don't believe either. So, and she's working full time at Amazon. Like,
just the economic pressure that these people are facing, and these two individuals in particular were facing.
Right. These are no one like special too. They're sisters. Look how many different times they were exploited. Like throughout that one story, and they're just two people.
Mm-hmm.
She said it several times that they're also being underpaid. They're not being paid enough.
That too, and what Jacan said is this is just two examples that made it to the news. This is happening every single day all over the country, even in California, the socialist paradise. This is happening. Oh, yeah. This is happening in rural. This is happening in rural Alabama. This is happening in Montana. This is happening in Maine, Michigan, Maryland. It's everywhere. No place under this capitalist system we exist under is safe from this type of exploitation and this constant beating down on the downtrodden.
Yeah, even within the largest cities, you see they have the rich and the poor divide. You gotta feed the rich somehow.
Democrat-run cities.
Yeah, LA. There's sections of LA that are the wealthiest sections in the whole country, and look at LA, man. It has like if not the largest like concentrated homeless population.
And it's getting like, and it's happening.
It's worse.
It's happening in Oakland incredibly fast.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we've seen that firsthand. We've gone up to Oakland a couple times, and that was pre-pandemic, man. I'm sure it's gotten fucking worse. Like,
yeah, that was like what 2017 that when we went.
Yeah, that would have been the last time. Like, and it expands too. Like, it just keeps getting
exactly
wider. And
how there's just that weird barrier where you can see the city, and then as soon as you get to the poor like parts of the town, there's just the huge walls.
Right.
You have all
you
these
can see the shining Oracle Arena.
Yeah, you see, and then and then you have all these colorful and like new modern architecture, and then you have like
Yeah, and then they put up the barriers around the rough areas of the city.
Yeah, where they were forgotten. It's crazy.
Well, especially they
Yeah.
don't want you to see and maybe think about maybe saying or doing something about it. They just keep it out of
Yes.
mind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just a blimp on the highway, you know. Yeah, maybe we can link that GoFundMe or something though. 'Cause
Yeah, no, absolutely. We'll
Do
be
you
sure
guys
to,
want to move to our next piece though, so we can
yeah,
get to our
and
review?
we'll be sure to put those on our social medias to GoFundMe.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I'm gonna bring this last piece up because it's important to what we were just talking about. This is all like the stories had like during a pandemic. These were essential workers. So we have this piece from Newsweek. A lot of people on Twitter were talking about this. On my California homies, Oxnard was talking about it. Gavin Newsom removes essential workers from vaccine priority list as frontline deaths soar. So just from the headline, immediately, what the fuck? Like, how does this make any sort of sense? At what point of the process did he be like, oh, okay, yeah, no, this is an okay thing to do?
Especially right as we're reopening our outdoor outdoor dining.
Exactly.
Unthinkable.
And while our ICUs are still at max capacity,
Yeah, nothing's changed. Nothing. It's
regardless if California cases are on the decline, our ICUs are still at max capacity. So opening this shit up again could totally make this fluctuate again. Then we could see another overfill of our hospitals.
New strain. New strain dropped.
A new COVID strain.
And you know,
I have a coworker at Whole Foods who works at St. John's, and he was saying fucking like the morgue's like been full, and they're not they're not dispatching anybody, so they're staying after they recover from COVID and getting it again. It's like the hospitals are fucked right now, and like to hear him say it, like, and he and it was nuts for him to say. He was like, he's like, yeah, I mean, St. John's, like in comparison to other places, we have a kind of a tiny morgue, but it's like still like any like sized morgue being full is crazy, or crazy to hear. And like the way he said it, like it obviously doesn't seem like a normal thing. And
do you remember that El Paso story we covered where they ran out of space and they started using trucks, like
yep.
cold trucks, to put bodies in?
And then the story I believe is in New York where they had prisoners put those bodies in the
Yeah,
trucks.
they were doing prisoners in the trucks.
Mhm.
It might have been El Paso too.
It might have been, yeah, I mean, probably, but I think
I don't doubt
I
it.
think the story we pulled was New York.
Yeah, but yeah, that I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that's happening here.
No, yeah,
Will.
oh, that was so Californian. No, yeah,
Yeah, no.
no, yeah, no, no, yeah. Uh, so I'll just get into the top part of this piece, just to give a little context. California's regional stay-at-home order was lifted on Monday by Governor Gavin Newsom, who also announced a series of improvements to the state's vaccination plan. The new measure would include a move to age-based eligibility for vaccination, which will no longer see essential workers, such as those working in manufacturing and transportation, be prioritized for the vaccination. The announcement comes as many service industry workers prepare to return to work following the lifting of the stay-at-home order, and as death among frontline workers skyrocket, according to research by the University of California, San Francisco. Um, the new framework for which takes effect after those currently being prioritized are vaccinated has been criticized by the SCIU. So I think this part's important. The first people to clap back against this are who? The unions, which is so important. Like we need to unionize. The Service Employees International Union, California, which has 700,000 workers. The state is currently in phase 1B stage, or the state is currently in the phase 1B stage of its vaccine rollout, At the 1B Tier 1 level, this tier includes individuals 65 and older and those at risk of exposure at work in the following sectors: education and childcare, emergency services, food and agriculture, according to the California government website. The next level, 1B Tier 2, includes those at risk of exposure at work in the following sectors: transportation, logistics, industrial, commercial, residential, and sheltering facilities and services, critical manufacturing, as well as those in congregate settings with outbreak risk, which include those incarcerated or homeless, according to the website. The president of SEIU California, Bob Schoonover, said in a statement Monday, according to the recent research by UCSF, frontline workers and workers of color have seen their dying skyrocketing because of the pandemic. Millions of working Californians, most of them people of color, have no choice but to leave their homes and work each day, exposing themselves, their families, and their communities to COVID-19 and its devastation. Research shows that work is a major source of transmission. And I thought this was insane. Any sort of rearranging of essential workers and not getting vaccine as a priority is insane to me. Like, it makes literally no sense. And I thought I would just bring it up because it's important. But yeah, that's all I really had to say on that piece. Does anybody have anything else to say about it, or do you want to go into our break?
I would just reharp on, like, it's so crazy we're like reopening and they're doing this too. It's like, what?
Yeah, it
makes no sense.
No,
I mean, it does. Like, we also, to keep tooting our own horn here, like, we covered that AstraZeneca piece too. Like, they're just, they're profiting off these vaccines, honestly, and they don't want to give any money to small businesses or anybody, so they'll let people open up outdoor businesses so they can float, kinda. They don't give a fuck if the virus spreads or if vaccines are, not getting distributed correctly right now.
And as we covered before as well, even the companies of these workers themselves are making money off of fucking betting on how many people are gonna get COVID.
Yeah, what was that, Tyson?
Yeah, Tyson.
They're betting on who was gonna die from COVID. Yeah. Morbid.
Insane.
Well, what else are you supposed to bet on with large sums of money?
Yeah. I mean, they bet on the death of GameStop. Yeah.
But yeah, I think
wanted to say.
Oh, go ahead.
Death is very profitable.
Quick shout out to the person who wrote this article, shouting us out on the page.
You like that, huh?
A little subliminal messaging.
So yeah, we built this.
I know the stream can't see it, but I'm sure.
Oh, what the fuck?
Wait, can they not? Oh, okay.
Wait, put that back up. That's insane. I didn't even see it.
I told you I would start doing it, remember?
Yo, the shameless plug. Let's go.
I warned everyone, however many episodes, that I was getting sick and tired of.
So fucking hard, bro.
Yo, let's go.
What do you mean?
Newsweek just gonna rope into my house.
Subscribe to Spoop Podcast. Let's go.
Totally skimmed past that.
Yeah, so did I. I didn't fucking see
Subliminal messaging. You don't even notice it.
Yeah, on that pluggy note, we're gonna go into our first break. Please drop a follow if you're watching and you haven't followed already. If you're watching with that account, please create an account so you could follow and never miss an episode. Every Wednesday and Sunday at 10:30 p.m. California time. If you have Amazon Prime, you should link that to your Twitch and then give us your Prime sub. Costs you no extra money and only helps us, as well as kind of ropes you back in here, because if you're giving us your sub, you're more likely to come back and hang out with us and hear what we have to say about politics. So yeah, we're gonna go into our first break and we'll be right back. Spoop.
We're back. Ian, show him the jersey.
Show him the jersey.
That, in my opinion, is top 5 NHL jersey.
One of the hardest jerseys.
One of the best ones.
Come on, baby.
It's very much like the Penguins one, which I also like. They're like blue one, but the Penguins are fucking garbage. Should never ever win again.
Fuck City.
So, and Columbus is cool, so I like that.
Yep.
You see, they made a trade. They got a new player.
Oh.
A good player, really good player. His name is Patrick Laine. He's from the Jets.
That sounds really familiar.
He's like that tall. He kind of looks like my dad, honestly, and he plays for the Jets. But he has like this. He looks different though. He has like this like goat kind of look to him. He's good. He's just like he's had injury issues and kind of been a choker in the playoffs. But he'll be nice for Columbus. Yeah, he looks like a goat, man. He's very weird. I'm wearing the Sharks one today because the Sharks got their ass ate by the Avalanche. Very sad. Cumstered. I sent you the thing about our Evander Kane too, right? The one player we have. He's like fucking 30 million in debt or something in gambling. We just paid him like a 30 or 40 million dollar contract. So.
He has like no money.
Yeah, so great.
Sharks are gonna break his fucking knees if he doesn't play good.
I don't even think he's playing. I think he's done. Honestly, like I think he retired, or he's like not playing right now. He's got to figure his shit out. I like Michael's fit too, though. I don't know what this is like. It's like a blue Hugh Hefner.
Getting ready for bed.
I got this for Christmas.
It's nice.
Very soft.
Who got it for you?
Sarah.
Oh, yep.
TV.
Yep. It's
Don't
true.
say that.
Michael just needed a woman's touch in his house. It changed everything.
Michael went from a bachelor pad to an actual home.
Their living room now has like live, laugh, love things in it.
A big,
but it's homier too. A big throw pillows. It's all the difference.
Wait, it really is.
It really is. Like
it's slowly making its way upstairs. So.
Oh God, you gotta fight it, Michael.
Back, I say, back.
Tape up your door. Put salt.
Yeah.
Mike's gonna have a home is where the heart is sign in his room.
God bless. Just in this house, Black Lives Matter.
You know, it'd be funnier if I doxed Michael right now.
Oh,
funny.
Yeah, damn. Michael's camera's on very good quality today, though.
Yeah, I know. No one's it.
Yeah, no, we're pretty decent today. Usually we get hacked on more, honestly.
No, yeah, CIA usually comes for it. I guess it's because we're not talking about like socialism coup attempts or something.
All right, so let's do it then. Yeah. So was it last show we talked to? It was either last show or the one before we talked about Bobi Wine and the whole situation in Uganda.
The show before.
Yeah, and that whole shit going down, which is, Bobi Wine, a young populist president, basically won the presidency and then got cooed by the president that served Western interests for the last 30 plus years, Museveni. I'm not going to speak too much because the speaker we have, Milton Al-Mahdi, he kind of gives like a general history on Uganda as well as like a history on Museveni, and that's the part we'll play more than like the Bobi Wine situation since we already covered it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I this was just like a treasure trove of information, and this whole series you can find on YouTube, and I think it might be a resource we might use if we do our little Africa project.
Most definitely.
Doing. So yeah, we can play it.
Greetings, comrades, sisters,
also,
and brothers.
He's such a jovial man.
Welcome to African History Club, episode number 24. I'm your host, Milton Al-Mahdi. A few people joined us over the last 1 week. I welcome all you newcomers. And as always, I encourage you to, promote this podcast if you feel that you are learning something worthwhile.
Old people like to call every video a podcast, by the way.
Engagement.
I've learned this.
I'm your host, Milton Alimadi, and today I'm going to be speaking on not so much Uganda, but on General Yoweri Museveni, who's been ruling Uganda for 35 years now with strong U.S. financial, diplomatic, and military support. He's the classic neo-colonial dictator, much in the same mold as Mobutu was in the country he had renamed Zaire, but now called Congo, which was, of course, its original name as well. So Uganda had a so-called election on January 14th, and it's only in the context of an African country or in Uganda that international media could even refer to this as a quote-unquote election. During the period preceding the January 14 vote, more than 100 people were killed by the armed forces of Uganda, the supporters of opposition parties, particularly the party of Bobi Wine. Bobi Wine's real name is Robert Kyagulanyi. He is a member of parliament in Uganda, 38 years old, and he was a very popular entertainer, musician, producer, and a filmmaker. And he's 38 years old, and which is very critical in Uganda because 80% of the population is under the age of 35. So what this young man did was he launched a voter recruitment and registration drive over the last 2 years and signed up millions of young new voters who were enthusiastic about politics for the first time in a very long time. And that is why the regime created a state of maximum terror. I mean, it's already a very brutal dictatorship under General Museveni, but particularly during this election period, became a state of maximum terror, where bodies of people that have been killed by the armed forces and the intelligence services were just found dumped in the streets around the country, including in the capital city of Kampala, which of course was to intimidate voters, because this General Museveni, who's officially 76 years old, but people in Uganda suspect he's much older, realized the only way that he stood a chance was by voter intimidation to discourage voters from going to the polls. And it really did not work, because the more killings that were occurring, the more support Bobi Wine was gaining. And this could be measured just by looking at the people that showed up when he was traversing the country, driving through the different cities in Uganda. Tens of thousands of people would show up just to see him. And it became obvious to General Museveni that it would be difficult for him to even rig these elections. He successfully rigged 4 of the past 5 elections and is now attempting to rig this, his 6th election. And it might be difficult because at some point there's a possibility that the youth may just come out to the streets and push him out, just like the young people did in 2018 in Sudan, when the dictator of 30 years there, Omar Bashir, was pushed out in a popular revolution where the army saw the writing on the wall and wanted to cut their losses, so they got rid of their commander, General Bashir. It's not impossible for something like that, similar, to happen in Uganda, either in that variation or even in another way. So why does the West, particularly the United States, support General Museveni? General Museveni has been very crafty and good in terms of making himself an essential dependent of the West. And why do I make that distinction? Because, of course, most African countries, most African rulers are dependent on the West, on the industrialized countries. These are weak, marginal economies, produce primary commodities, import industrialized products from the West and increasingly from China, and they depend on loans from the World Bank, from other Western institutions and financial outlets, as well as China. So they are dependent economies. They are in a neo-colonial relationship with the industrialized world. Now, in Uganda, I say it is even much more essential dependency, because Museveni has made himself the regional sheriff on behalf of the West. So what does Museveni do for the United States? The United States is fearful that Somalia could fall to a movement called Al-Shabaab, which the US says is very closely allied with Al-Qaeda. And the United States, instead of having US boots on the ground in Somalia, essentially rents Uganda's army under Dictator General Museveni. Uganda has deployed about 10,000 soldiers in Somalia. It's been there for about 12 years now. And there's no end in sight for this deployment, because Uganda also, not Uganda really, but Museveni, does not want Somalia to become stable and peaceful, because then the United States would not need him for that devious, nefarious relationship that Washington has with Museveni. In fact, Museveni's army has also been selling weapons to Al-Shabaab, the same Al-Shabaab that he's supposed to be fighting in Somalia. Of course, this is not the type of thing that somebody would do if the ultimate goal was to make Somalia a peaceful country. So that is why Museveni has had a blank check for the last 12 years with the United States. He has a blank check in terms of whatever he wants to do in Uganda, including gross human rights abuses. I won't spend too much time on that because I want to maximize our time, but of course that is important. But I want to refer people to a documentary film called A Brilliant Genocide. I strongly recommend that, and I will post the link at the end of this podcast. And you will be shocked. Actually, those of us who are conscious and familiar with some of the most horrendous things that the United States is involved in or has supported and financed around the world would not be shocked. But still, the atrocities documented in A Brilliant Genocide might still shock some of you. The filmmaker is Ebony Butler, an Australian filmmaker. So that is why Museveni gets away with all sorts of gross abuses of human rights in Uganda and corruption, one of the most corrupt regimes in Africa. So corrupt that I actually followed and wrote about a case right here in the United States, in federal court, U.S. District Court, where a Chinese national was tried and convicted for having bribed General Museveni and his foreign minister named Sam Kutesa $1 million. How did the US gain jurisdiction? The conversation between the Chinese national named Patrick Ho started here in New York when Uganda's foreign minister, Sam Kutesa, was appointed as president of the UN General Assembly. It's a 1-year appointment. So during that period, that is when the conversation for the bribe and scheme started between Patrick Ho and Kutesa. And when Kutesa went back to Uganda, and half of the money for the bribe, $500,000, was wired through Hong Kong to a New York bank and then routed to Kutesa's account in Uganda. As for Museveni's own share of the bribe money, after Museveni stole the 2016 election, Patrick Ho was invited with other Chinese business executives to go to Museveni's swearing in Uganda. And he flew there to the country with a Gulfstream jet. And in that jet, he also carried with him $500,000 in cash. And then when Patrick Ho, for many of his other business activities, happened to be in New York City, he was arrested in the FBI by the FBI. And that is why he was tried in the US and ultimately convicted and served 3 years imprisonment. While Museveni is, of course, scot-free in Uganda, free to continue abusing Ugandans, killing Ugandans, and trying to rig another Ugandan election. And how much support does he get from the United States?
Yeah. And a part later on, he goes, and I don't know if you guys kind of spotted, it's always apparent to me just because part of our political awakening was the 2 Bernie Sanders runs. Like, Bobi Wine sounds a lot like that appeal that Bernie Sanders had here. And for this specific election, too, do you remember in Iowa when all the like shit went down and all the data was unreliable, everything was fucked, but the own Bernie people that were at each place did their own counting, right, and had their own data. You guys remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And they it was super accurate, and they did the same thing in Bobi Wine's group. They did basically the same approach, and I couldn't help but see a parallel. But from that, I think Museveni said he won like 60% of the vote, and Bobi Wine won like 30 or something. Bobi Wine actually won like 70% of the vote. So, yeah.
And I think that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and and this kind of goes back to something that happened like at the beginning of when we started this show, with what country was it? With the election,
African or Europe?
Europe.
Belarus?
CIS, the Belarusian elections. How the guy that was in power basically was like, oh yeah, I won like 80 to 20% or something, but but the person running against him was like, oh, I got actually like 70% of the votes. It's like
right.
It's like a similar situation where like the guy in power is like, oh, I just crushed it like usual.
Yeah, and this guy, the distinction too is he's just super bankrolled by U.S. capitalism and neo-colonial interests. And yeah, that goes back. He's been, ruling this joint since like the 80s, and he's crushed a bunch of populist movements in Uganda. He let Kony fucking have like a child army there for years and let that be a issue. Yeah, I think that documentary too, he goes on to talk about it, and it's like actual footage from like within Uganda of like some of these human rights violations and stuff. And that seems interesting. That maybe could be another resource we could use. Yeah, that was just like a general informational thing. This is gonna be like our speakers bit here in our the stream, our pod. So we can go to the next thing. Does anyone have like any final thoughts before I?
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if this was today or the day before, but I think it was like a world call for action against the war on Yemen. Of course, that should be every day, and all these people speaking do that every day. But yeah, I went in here because I saw Cornel West was in there. I'm like, okay, golden. That'll be a good speech, of course. But also in here was I think it's the Stop the War Coalition is the one that's like hosting this Zoom thing and one of the main people that set it up. Lindsay German is one of their people, and she speaks about the war on Yemen. And I think she puts it really succinctly and just real simple and hits all the issues in a pretty short time. So I want to do her first, just so everyone gets the issue, like an idea, and I think everyone's pretty familiar, but she just hits all the points. And then we'll go to Cornel West, because Cornel West, yeah, he does all that too, but he gives like, it's more like a sermon, and
yeah,
it puts a little fire in you. So we'll, let's do the first one. It's good.
Lindsay, glad that
Thank you very much, Aisha. And I must say what a great pleasure it is to be here tonight with all these great speakers, and also with such a good audience. And it's such a show of solidarity from around the world. And I looked at the chat at the beginning at where people had come from. We've got people from Havana, we've got people all over Britain, all over the United States, we've got people all over Europe and in the Middle East. So it's a fantastic feeling, this sense that we're all together and we're all putting the same message out here tonight. And I think it's the most important message, because as it's already been said, this conflict is hidden in the British media, it's hidden in the United States media, it's hidden in all those medias, because they do not want to tell the truth about what is happening. And I feel very, very strongly that we have had a year now of this dreadful pandemic, which has affected people around the world. We've had a situation where nearly a year ago, the United Nations called for a world ceasefire so we would not have the continuing conflict like we're seeing still in Yemen. And that has been ignored by successive governments. And we are now in the throes of all sorts of conflict. And Yemen, as Apsana says, is the worst humanitarian disaster, the worst war that is going on in the world at the moment. And I think, if you look at the figures, 250,000 dead, 80% of the people dependent on aid. If you look at the dangers of famine caused by blockade, if you look at the dangers of disease, we worry about COVID in countries like Britain, quite rightly, because we have the highest death rate in the world per head of population because of the mismanagement and corruption and rottenness of our government. But if you look at what is happening in Yemen, they don't even know the scale of this, because the ability to deal with health problems as well as to deal with the war is so difficult for people there. So this is about solidarity tonight, but it's also about saying, why is this war allowed to continue? It's allowed to continue because the British government, the United States governments, the European governments, these are people who are sustaining the Saudi regime in its bombing and in its bloody war against the people of Yemen. That is what is going on. If you look at the British government alone, the British government relies more and more on arms sales as a means of sustaining its economy, as a means of sustaining its place in the world as it sees it, as a means of doing all these sorts of things. The British government alone during this war has had arms sales to Saudi Arabia worth £15 billion. This is the kind of money that we are talking about, and it is an obscenity. And when you look, it's not just military advisors. The people from the RAF are in the control rooms with the Saudis, actually advising them where is the best place to bomb. How do you go about bombing? These kind of things. There is nothing that can be defended about this in the slightest. And every one of us here in Britain and across the world should be protesting about this kind of thing. So I think it's very, very important just to say, firstly, to our Prime Minister Boris Johnson, to Joe Biden, who's just come into office in the United States and who has promised that he will bring an end to this war. This has to be done immediately. And it isn't just about the immediate issues. It's also about the role of empire in the world. It's about the way the United States, Britain, and the European powers still think they have the right to intervene in the Middle East, to intervene in Africa, to intervene in all sorts of places in order to further their economic and military interests. We say enough is enough. So solidarity to everybody who's here, solidarity to the people of Yemen, and let's keep fighting, let's keep organizing until we end this war.
Thanks very much, Lindsay.
Yeah, she goes off. I mean that almost brings a tear. That was pretty good. What do you guys want to comment on that one, or do you just want to move to the next one? What do you guys want to do?
I think we could just move to the next one. I think just
right,
let the words speak.
Yeah, she put it, I mean, simple to me. It was like, what was that, like 2 or 3 minutes?
Yeah.
And now we got the legacy of MLK speaking. So
Cornell West, baby.
Take it in. I mean, yeah, it's good, very, very good. That's all I can say.
Here, which maybe we'll have to.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, we can now. Yeah, fantastic.
No, I'm just so blessed to be what I was saying, Brother Chris. I'm saluting you. I'm saluting my dear sister Aisha, and each and every one of us who's come together to raise our voices because we want to affirm the precious humanity of our brothers and sisters in Yemen. That we want to ensure that we keep track of this spiritual decay and moral decrepitude that takes the form of an institutionalized greed and an organized hatred against our brothers and sisters in Yemen. And we do this in such a way that we embrace all of those persons who find themselves in situations of domination and subjugation and degradation, not as some neoliberal glib gesture that makes us feel good, but rather because we have a genuine solidarity of care and concern. We stand here because we affirm truth, and the condition of truth is to allow suffering to speak. We affirm justice, and justice is what love looks like in public, and the love takes the form of raising voices, putting bodies on the line, and letting our brothers and sisters in Yemen know that they have not been forgotten, that their humanity will never, ever be rendered invisible, no matter what the corporate media has to say. And that we will speak the truth about them and recognize that a Yemen baby has exactly the same value as a baby in Ethiopia, a baby in Guatemala, a baby in the American Empire, a baby in Greece, a baby in Tel Aviv, a baby in West Bank and Gaza, a baby in China. That is the spiritual and moral force behind our voices coming together. And of course, I speak in the midst of the belly of the beast of the American empire, when Martin Luther King Jr. said 54 years ago, my own government is the biggest conveyor of violence because it is the major empire in the world. That's not anti-American, that's anti-injustice in America and the impact of U.S. imperial policies around the world. So we make the connection between the police murders taking place in the United States with the Wall Street crimes taking place in New York and big tech crimes, and connected to the Pentagon militarism. And it doesn't make any difference what color the head of the Pentagon is. It doesn't make any difference what gender the vice president is. If they don't meet moral and spiritual criteria of putting the least of these at the center of their vision, poor people, working people, no matter what color, gender, sexual orientation, or national identity, we will raise our voices. This is why I'm blessed to be here, and this is why we intend to be faithful unto death and to not allow the greed and the hatred, the imperial policy, the predatory capitalism, the patriarchy, the homophobia, the transphobia, losing sight of anybody, be they Arab, Muslim, Jewish, Catholic, Baptist, whatever. Thank you for allowing me to be a small part of this great gathering. Let us continue.
We are very blessed
Yeah,
to
Cornell.
have you.
What the?
I see you have met my pastor. Yeah.
Yeah, Cornell West is incredible. That was.
Yeah.
You just completely.
Lindsay German as well. She said, in a way, the same thing, but it's a different way of making you process it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, hers is the logical cry of, "Hey, here's the reality," and he gave you the reality too. But, yeah.
There's a reason you never see him on TV anymore.
Oh yeah, never ever.
So wise with his words.
They had him. He got onto CNN or maybe MSNBC like once or twice during the Black Lives Matter protest, just because he's like one of the leading Black intellectuals in the United States. And both the times they had him on, I guarantee you they regretted it because there's so many clips that even I can remember from those where he's just like ripping them. He's just like ignoring whatever Anderson Cooper asks him, and he just says whatever the fuck he wants to say. Like, it's pretty great. Yeah, to top that off, just like they said, solidarity with the people in Yemen. All we can do is try to fight our own government's, not just complicitness in it, but our purposeful drive and, arm sales, etc., to the Saudis. Yeah, the war on Yemen now. It's disgusting. It's a crime against humanity. Like they said, we don't even, with COVID, like it's crazy here, but like in Yemen, we don't even know the numbers because, and that's one of the true tragedies. Like a year or two from now, and maybe we'll never know, but like a year or two from now, hundreds of thousands of people will probably be dead. Yemeni people will be dead because of coronavirus and other unnecessary exposure and etc.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Those speeches were badass.
And end all wars, but this is the one that, yeah. Come on, this isn't a war. It's just they're genociding people like in every imaginable way: blockade, famine, sanctions, bombings.
Oh yeah, that's if you call it a war, then like you got to show on Saudi Arabia's side like where are their casualties.
Yeah, a war has to be fought on two sides. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. It's not. This is just like Iraq. It's just an invasion.
An invasion. Yeah. Here you can't even call it an. I mean, Saudi does want the Yemeni land and to completely wipe them off the map. But as of right now, it's not like an invasion. They just want to blanket them and kill everything in sight. It's just an extermination.
Yeah.
So I guess if we're really trying to carry on, here's my big time, the long time. We're trying to carry on the legacy of, the Holocaust and memorializing the Holocaust. Like, dude, we're doing one right now. Like, and that's to the point of the Holocaust is not unique. It is something that we have done. There are it's unique in its own way, but it's all these things are intertwined, and the genocide of the Yemeni people is, of course, intertwined into the global story. So yeah, and that's it. I will stop it when I become mayor of Oxnard.
When you become mayor of Oxnard, you're gonna give Penguin a lifetime supply of White Claw.
I'm actually executing him as my first act of. How old is there an age limit on mayor? Is it like state to state?
It might be state to state. I'm not sure.
Whatever it is, it's draconian anyway and stupid, and I probably have to have a dick ton of money to even like get through the paperwork.
Yeah.
You know how these things work.
Yeah.
But if I just stop the steal, I mean,
those were your votes stalled. Those were your votes the whole time. They
yeah,
rigged.
I wasn't on the ballot, but the people want me. I know.
Yeah. They took you off the ballot.
It's true.
We never even heard of these people who were on the ballot before.
Yeah, true. Can you name, other than Flynn, any of the other mayor candidates right now?
Who's Flynn?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. I don't think we've ever had a mayor.
We don't. The scary thing is we probably don't know about truly like 90% of the things these guys do. Mayors and like local like governance, they get away with so much shit.
Did we just start Mayorgate?
Mayorgate, yeah.
Mayor pilled.
Why does everything have to be a gate? Like, what's up with that? I don't get it.
If it's not a gate, if it's not a gate, it's a psyop. And if it's not a
gate,
but Pizzagate's real.
Well, isn't that the thing with all of them? Is like there's a grain of truth, right?
Oh yeah.
And the grain of truth is that Nancy Pelosi eats children. And
that's the only true part.
Yeah, that's the only that's the
made into Trump ice
cream. To save the United States. Q is some hidden person that no one knows.
Q is only right about Nancy Pelosi.
You think so? That's so crazy. People actually believe in that.
No, right?
I'm just ingesting that. I like obviously you have like the whatever name, Bobber or whatever. Like maybe they believe in it to a degree, but they're also like
just using it. They're like no, they're like diehard. Like
yeah. I guess there's everything though, right?
I mean, the Moth shooter is a Q guy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're everywhere.
When you remember he went into court and he drew a Q on his hand for the camera. No, like no
That's
shit.
So cringe, bro.
The right? And he had like MAGA. He had like MAGA forever too. Like it was insane.
Jeez.
I mean, there's a lot of people that devote their life to shit.
Yeah, that's something I want to bring up right now, actually, too. Cause I watched. I didn't know shit about like the Richard Ramirez, the serial killer or whatever. They had, like it was like the top trending thing on Netflix. And
My coworker just recommended that shit to me.
It was pretty good. That one was all right. There was another one that was about an English serial killer, and I liked that one because it was more about like working class politics and the decline in the 70s. That was more interesting than the serial killer stuff.
Well, and even with the Richard Ramirez thing, like that's like what is that? Like right around the time the USSR was dissolving, the Berlin Wall, like all that was happening politically.
Well, and more than that, one of the interesting things with him was that, and this happens all the time, and I'm using this because it ties in with the militarism in Yemen, etc., and Uganda, is that this stuff comes back home. Richard Ramirez, I think, totally there's a bunch of stuff that probably caused him to become what he was, but he had an uncle that served in Vietnam that, was basically completely fucked up from Vietnam and like took him like hunting and shit and showed him like pictures of like people he had killed in Vietnam and shit. That uncle ended up later shooting his wife in the face and pleading insanity also.
Oh,
so this militarism comes home and it really infects us too. Like it's a sickness. It's in the way like Cornell's talking about it, and this is why he's kind of on that deeper level too. It's like it really is a spiritual, like a war on the spiritual too. Like when we go kill someone in Yemen, like it's not just a high-minded way, like really in the literal sense, like it comes home to haunt us and kill us.
Absolutely.
So it's just, and that's just a stupid Euro mindset. We don't understand that everything's interconnected. I think a lot of other cultures understand that things are interconnected.
Well, when you look at like all the context around the Iraq War, it's like the questions of like why did terrorists hate us?
Right.
Why do they want to destroy the United States?
Hello.
Yeah, you're back. You're back.
Okay, I got fucking. Yep, CIA got us. We started talking about.
Your audio is there.
We
It's
just
your
started
video-
asking questions.
We started talking about war, and then all of a sudden, I fucking disconnect, bro. That's crazy.
You saw even their shit was fucked up, and these are renowned scholars. They're after all of us.
Yeah, they are suppressing us.
Logically, if you recognize that there are people who hate you, and you want to understand, well, why do they hate me? Maybe then I can do something about it.
Yeah, exactly. But because people are lied to.
Yeah, but when there's ulterior motives, cover-ups, money to be made, morals go out the window.
Yeah, no one knew the history of Saddam, or at least kept mind of it when we went to go invade him. But everyone knows now. Like Saddam was our dude until he wasn't.
Yep. Or the
facts.
Or the situation with Libya.
Yeah, like, Gaddafi. Like we played Gaddafi too.
We told him we're gonna invade unless you give us your weapons. He said, "Okay, fine. Here, just don't invade us. Take the weapons." And they just
invade.
Yep.
They have open slave markets.
Well, it turns out we never really liked you to begin with, so we were kind of just gonna do this anyway. But we wanted you to make it easier for us.
Libya is very fucked right now, and it's a direct result of the United States.
Yeah, just like Yemen is, just like Uganda, Palestine. Yeah, I mean, that I was saying with Yemen, like that's an extension of the Holocaust memorial thing. Palestine, to me, is the most obvious one too, like because it's happening in the land they now call Israel. Yeah, like come on, like if you want to keep the legacy of memorializing the Holocaust and righting the wrongs that happened there, like the new extension of that is the shit that's happening in Palestine, the apartheid state.
Absolutely.
And that's not anti-Semitic, and it's all the same token too. Like you have to recognize too, like anti-Semitic attacks are going up too. Like we had the Moth shooting, or no, sorry, the not Moth, the synagogue shootings in Pittsburgh. I think statistically, there's like there might even be more anti-Semitic attacks in the last like couple years in the United States too. But that's not because people are criticizing Israel. That's not what that's about.
It's because fucking QAnon is turning people into fucking anti-Semites.
Well, yeah, you see that too. Like you see if you like question flat Earth people or like Q people.
It all comes back. It all comes back to the Jews owning something.
And Jewry and all kind of
Oh fucking! Speaking of the whole.
Wait, so would you admit that wealth concentration is a problem?
They realize that, but they don't have I think both. It's obviously they're racist too.
Yeah, they're obviously misled in wrong directions, even if they're grains of truth to the things they believe.
But they don't think in
it's
class.
Just they're misled into completely, what do you call it? Misleading conclusions about how to deal with them that will never solve the issues.
Right, it's me versus this guy, or me versus this race or that race, rather than it's us versus the capitalists.
Yeah.
Which,
and like just before I say something else, it's like also like the whole Jews owning stuff thing isn't even real. Like most of the shit owned in America is white Anglo-Saxon Protestant.
Yeah.
Wasps.
And it's I mean, there's a point in pointing out because capitalism is, white supremacy dominated and it's ingrained in it. But capitalism isn't, I don't think, necessarily, I think it's willing to get rid of the white supremacist thing intertwined with it, at least the label, in order to keep existing.
Well, that's what we see from Joe Biden.
Yeah, exactly.
Is the multicultural, multiracial capitalism that is all inclusive.
But nothing changes.
Yeah, but there's no actual diversity of opinion or thought. It's just the system, and it's just what you look like is what will be different.
Yes, the answer isn't more black billionaires or something. It's fucking. What was it that Fred fucking Hampton said? He's like, the answer isn't the answer to capitalism isn't like black capitalism or something. The answer is It's socialism.
Yeah, the system will continue to function the same. They'll just change the owners out.
Yes.
For someone who looks a little more appealing.
Yeah, that's all compatible to them, unfortunately. Do we want to do our last piece so we can? I think all that was really good though. That was.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw in chat, but I couldn't really fit the last one in, and it was more of just like a shitting on it anyway piece. I thought like this last part was like a good place to, because we're about to hit 2 hours as well.
All right, yeah, that's good. Yeah, we can just we've done a lot. I guess to spoil it for people, we've done a lot of stuff on India too, and I think that's always going to be a cool case study to keep our eyes on.
Yeah, and this wasn't necessarily an update, so I don't really feel bad.
Yeah.
I don't feel bad skipping it. It was just the New York Times being shitty as usual.
Shitting their take.
Yeah.
On their take, yeah.
But yeah, we will definitely keep you up to date with all of everything going on in India. I just I couldn't really fit this one into the conversation we were having, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like it ended well because it started with the Holocaust memorial stuff, and now we've kind of come full circle.
Come full circle, yeah. But yeah, I think that was a good 33.
Yeah, that was a good one.
I think
back on the grind.
Yeah, back on the grind.
Joe Biden's our president. Weird world.
Very, very weird. Very weird world.
Still got to work to expose the truth, no matter who's in power. Even if it was Bernie.
Even if Mary McCheese cannot stop us.
Yep.
We started this show in McDonald's land, and we still haven't left.
Nope, and we will never leave.
Yep.
We hope we can leave.
One day.
You wanna plug all our
Yeah. Michael, get that typed in chat. If you want to follow us on any social media, everything is just look up Spoop Podcast everywhere, and you'll find us. YouTube, Instagram, Twitter.
Sundays, Wednesdays, 10:30 p.m.
Yep. Sundays,
Pacific time.
Subscribe to our OnlyFans.
Yep.
That's coming soon. Exclusive content. Naked
Michael's
news.
just gonna be naked in this robe he's got on here.
We're
gonna do a whole calendar.
Nude news, nude barbers. We got it all. And but yeah, that's everything. We really appreciate all you guys coming out and hanging out with us. We will be back on. We'll be back on Sunday. Thank you guys so much. And yeah, if anybody has anything else to say, go ahead. If not, just go ahead and play the song and let's get out of here.
And all of the illegal, unjust, disgusting wars. Good night.
Yes. Solidarity to all the workers all over the world.
Hell yeah.
I just thought of something real quick before we go.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Maybe one of the reasons that we don't really want to acknowledge the damage we do around the world is because then maybe the question of repaying these people for the damage we've done might come into question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
And then considering changing it at home too.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen. Everybody, we out.
Yeah.
Let's roll.
All right. I'll catch you guys.
Bless
Later,
up.
everyone.
Hey, yo. For Planet OX. Soulful music. To the back. With that real raw shit.